Hey guys, hope you're all having a great day. So today I have 5 different plants that we're going to be putting in at my dad's house. If you saw my last video, then you might have seen that I went plant shopping and got a bunch of different things that we're going to be planting today. But there's a couple other plants that I've been holding on to that I've been wanting to put in the ground. So we're just going to take care of all of them today. I'll quickly show you each one of the plants, then we'll put them in the ground. And then after that, I'll kind of go over all the specs of the plants, how big everything's going to get, light requirements, all that kind of stuff. But for now, we're just going to be putting them in the ground. And then in each hole, I'm just going to be putting in some Biotone starter fertilizer, and then I have some composted manure. So the first thing that I have is this Mr. Poppins bush. Right here we have 2 berry poppins that we put in earlier this season. They've been doing pretty well, and you can see the berries are starting to color up, so these are going to look really pretty for the winter time. But in order to get winterberry hollies, or really I think all hollies to be honest, in order to have them produce berries, you need to have a female and male counterpart. These are the types of shrubs that are not planted together. They don't have a male and female planted in the same pot, so they're just separate plants. So I have the 2 females here and then 1 male. They need to be within 50 feet of one another, and then 1 male can fertilize up to 5 females. So I only have 2 for now, so this will work out perfectly. So I have that one over here. If I pan over a little bit, there's all these other shrubs. And then we have, here is a variety of echinacea called Cheyenne Spirit. This one's really cool because you can see all the different colors, and this is all in the same plant. So that's kind of what this plant is known for, is having many different colors of just like warmer tones, anywhere from like a mild yellow to a deep red. So I love this plant, and this is going to be going in right over here. Panning over a little bit more, we have a cryptomeria, also known as a Japanese cedar. This one is called Black Dragon. It's a dwarf variety, so it's not going to get very large, and this is going to be one of our key evergreen pieces for this back bed. So this one's going to be going in right here. We have this grass here, and then another evergreen that we're going to be putting in today. I gotta figure out the name of this one right here. So it's a yellow fern spray cypress. This one's going to be going in right over here. And then we got one more plant that's going to be going in the front over here, actually. So this one is called a Bundle of Joy sedum. You can see all of the flowers on here. It's absolutely gorgeous. Still budded up. Not even every flower is open on here. And that's pretty much just going to be going right behind here. I'm also going to trim up this red bud a little bit, so that way you can see this a little bit better, because that is really low to the ground. And this is going to go right in that spot. All right, let's get planting. Okay, so all the planting is done. It actually really wasn't that difficult and didn't take too long, which was great. So I just want to go over each one of the plants that we planted and just all their kind of like specifications and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so starting off, we have Mr. Poppins. I have the tag right in front of me here, so I'm just going to read it off to you. They're going to want full sun. They are native, which is awesome. The season of interest is going to be mostly spring and summer. It's mostly just when they have their flowers, but they look like this for the summertime, and then they will lose their leaves in the winter because they are a winterberry holly, so they will just be kind of like sticks in the winter. We're going to have a row of arborvitaes behind here giving us some privacy. We're going to do some emerald greens, so even though this won't look like a whole lot in the winter time, at least we'll have a nice green backdrop behind this. Besides that, it also grows in USDA hardiness zones of 3 through 8. It gets 3 to 4 feet tall and wide, and then it says moist to damp soil. So just make sure that you're gonna keep this moist. Like we just watered this in tonight. We're gonna get some rain tomorrow, which is gonna be really helpful for these plants. And then we're just gonna water these in really well, like a good 30 seconds to a minute, having the water pressure on all the way. And we're gonna do that probably for the next month and a half or so, till like the end of October, once it starts to get cooler, and then it'll go dormant for the season. But even then, for the season, we get a lot of rain here, but if you don't get a lot of rain in your climate, just make sure that you keep it consistently moist. And then pruning just mentions after flowering, so just make sure that you do prune this like early summer, I would say, probably like June, July. That's going to be the best time to prune this. Same thing with these. I think I'm going to end up pruning them next year after they grow, because you can see there's a little bit of a hole there, and then that one has a little bit of an odd shape. Those were in a bit rougher condition. They're going to be totally fine, but I want to make sure that I prune these well. Next, we have the Cheyenne Spirit. Again, this is such a beautiful, beautiful plant. So you can see this is more of like a bright orange, then we have more of a pink, and then this is more of a yellow, so it gets lots of different colors. But I want to read off to you what the actual tag says. So I just want to read off this tag to explain a little bit better about this plant, because it's a little bit different than some other echinacea. It says mix of colors from rich purple, pink, red, and orange tones to lighter yellows, creams, and white. So literally any color from like white to red. It says blooms July to September, full sun. Height is 24 to 30 inches tall, and then spread is 24 to 30 inches. So basically 2 to 2.5 feet tall and wide. It's zones 4 through 9 as well. So perfect space for where it is right now. Just to give you a little more context of where this is planted, we have, I believe this is a Coosa dogwood. I can't take my word for it because I don't know for sure, but I believe that's which type of dogwood this is. There is a firelight hydrangea, that's going to be pruned back hard this year. A 9-bark here, which is really going to take up this space over here. So this will kind of fill in this nice little spot, and then I have a autumn frost hosta in the front here. So this will really fill in this space nicely, and the rest of the stuff is going to take over most of this space. We'll probably just need to find a little bit more here. We might actually put a couple more Cheyenne skies here and maybe another autumn frost. Okay, so next is this cypress. So this is called a gold fern spray cypress. It gets 6 feet tall, 4 feet wide in about 10 years. And what's really interesting about this is it actually says that it needs partial shade, otherwise it's going to burn in the sun. And that's exactly what it gets from here. So we have this tree right here. There's just a regular white pine. We're going to be pruning some of these branches off, but it's going to get a little bit of shade from that tree. And then also, if you look this way, there is a blue chiffon rose of Sharon, which is going to grow taller. And then there's also over here behind these coneflowers a Temple of Bloom 7 sunflower. That's going to end up being somewhere like 6 to 10 feet tall, so it probably won't really give much shade, but I'm just pointing it out in case it does. So as this gets about like 6 feet tall or so, it'll end up getting shade from a few other things. I know you see this whole thing behind here, but that's actually all going to be cut down. That is just a tree. I don't know exactly which one it is, but we're going to end up getting rid of that because I don't particularly love it. It's kind of like right on the border, and there's some prettier stuff that'll fill in that space. There's also an arborvitae behind there too. So this is a really pretty plant, but you still want to give it a decent amount of sun because the more sun that you give it, the more color it's going to have. Just again, give it a little bit of protection. If I show you behind here, do you see how green this is? You can see when it doesn't get as much sun, it stays on the greener side. So you definitely want to give it some sun. But let me back up for a second, because look at how much color that brings to this space. I mean, it really does stand out, especially if I walk over this way. You can see just how much brighter that corner looks having that there. So I'm very excited to watch this grow. I actually just walked right past this somehow. I went right from the echinacea to the cypress. But this here, I have the tag right here if you want to pause and read it. It's called a black dragon Japanese cedar. So it's going to grow 10 to 12 feet tall in the end. So it'll really fill up the space and grow just to about the height of that pine tree. and then it'll get somewhere around like 4 to 5 feet wide. So it'll end up growing kind of into this a little bit and then into the grass. And we kind of want everything to touch just to give us some nice privacy. So this will be beautiful, especially for a nice winter interest. It's still going to get a decent amount of light once we cut back some of these branches, but it gets a lot of afternoon sun once the sun kind of gets over into this part of the sky. So I know you're thinking it's probably pretty shady over here. It's just because we haven't cut those branches back yet, and it won't get a whole lot of morning sun, but it'll get more afternoon sun. And then the last thing that we have here is the Bundle of Joy sedum. This is really beautiful, and I know it's not in the space that I originally had mentioned. My dad made a good point of saying that the blue fescue grasses that we have here are kind of in this grouping, and I think it would be fine if we put 3 in or 4 in, if we did like 1, 2, 3, 4 in between all of them, or just 1, 2, 3. But I think just putting 1 on the end would have looked a little strange, so instead we put it over in this area, and I think it contrasts really well with a limelight hydrangea, because these will also start to turn a little bit more pink. They're kind of growing right next to each other, but we also prune this back every year, so it's not going to get much bigger than it is. And there's kind of a little bit of a space between the limelight and then the tiny wine 9-bark. And then there's this lamium here. That's a nice low grower. And this does have some blue in it when it's not covered in flowers, because all you see is flowers. You can see some of the leaves at the bottom. So those have a little bit of a bluish tinge to them, so I think it'll work really well with that lamium. But this is really beautiful. I made a good mounding around it so the water didn't go off too much, but it still has really good drainage being in this spot right here. And my dad's girlfriend actually made a really good point that this kind of looks like cauliflower when you look at it, especially from a distance. So I honestly love it even more just because of that. It's just crazy how many blooms there are on this plant. So besides that, I hope you guys liked this video. I'm very excited to show you a garden tour very soon, probably in the next couple weeks or so. I'm gonna give you guys an update on everything that we have going on here at my dad's and at my mom's house, as stuff is really starting to shape up well for fall. So besides that, if you have any questions or comments whatsoever, feel free to put them in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next video.